Hello and welcome to Alternate Image Gaming. This is Tarkov Talks. Now before we really get into the subject of today's video, I want to briefly talk about something that, well, you probably heard pretty much everywhere else on YouTube, but engagements. The likes, comments, subscribe, all that business. And, well, all of it really helps with the algorithm. What I'm most interested in here is to ask for comments, for feedback, that is. So, on this channel, for Tarkov Talks, we typically get a handful of likes and basically no dislikes, except for really one video. I'm looking at you, Elon Musk, and not almost anything for actual comments and feedback. Not anything saying this is good, here's why, this is bad, here's why. And that would be something that would really help to know what is hitting, what is missing for this particular series. Which kind of segues actually into the topic, which is a little bit meta of subject, and it is Tarkov Talks. So I want to talk a little bit briefly about the plans for the channel and the show specifically, and the struggles with it, and what we're hoping to do with it going forward. This one is completely unscripted. This one is completely unprompted. I will just be running this scav here in Escape from Tarkov while kind of giving my thoughts and feedback about the process so far that making this series has been. And the first thing I want to mention is it's been pretty fun. We initially set kind of a goal of 12 episodes, and if it wasn't picking up by then we would, potentially retire the series. And it really hasn't picked up in Steam much. It hasn't been snowballing. But it's been fun to make. It's kind of cool to have this format for talking about different gaming stuff mostly. That is what the show is mostly a gaming podcast pretty much, with Hear a Chance of Murder in the background. And so, since it's been fun, I've kind of continued longer than I initially planned on. Would have been 12 episodes, and depending on when this one gets released, it's at least 15th. But that said, it has not really been gaining a lot of traction. We've gained a little bit more viewership than when we started, but at a fairly slow rate. And so we're trying to figure out what it is about the show that does get the viewers that it gets, and what keeps other people away. And one of the biggest problems that we've identified, and makes sense, and unfortunately this isn't feedback we've actually gotten from viewers, but is the discrepancy between the idea of it being called Tarkov Talks, taking place in Tarkov, and not necessarily being about that subject. Now really we just want Tarkov to be the background to something to look at, so it's not just a static picture. We're not doing face in this podcast. But I could see how that would be a potential turnoff for somebody who clicks on this video hoping for something Tarkov oriented, and then doesn't get that. So we're considering starting, for this beginning, a side series that would be either A, not named Tarkov Talks, and would have some other sort of naming structure to it that might not be as indicative of an exclusively Tarkov experience, or B, something that doesn't even have Tarkov in the background. It would be the same spiritually as far as the podcast with gameplay, but visually and in terms of name, a significant difference. So again, time for feedback. If you happen to be watching at this point, what draws you here and what keeps you away? What is it that is going to make you not leave, despite the fact that it isn't named what you might expect it to be called? And with that, that could potentially mean an end of the show called Tarkov Talks. If we end up having the time to do both, we're going to try to run the other series simultaneously, maybe initially starting with the Tarkov Escape from Tarkov still in the background with a different name, and then transitioning to, if that again doesn't really change in the viewership, transitioning to no Tarkov at all. And while the channel would still end up having a similarly structured podcast discussing gaming and then occasionally non-gaming topics, although I feel like the other show would be more gaming even than this one has been, maybe even more explicitly specific games, with possibly that game shown in the background for, I wouldn't say clarity, just a little bit ease of sense there. Random shotgun on the ground. But I don't know. Part of me doesn't want to let this one go either. But running both would be a little redundant even. Which comes to the next struggle we actually kind of end up having with this is finding talks that will be potentially interesting to the viewer and that we can also talk about in length, because we need to be able to yammer on about one of these subjects for between 10 and 20 minutes, and hopefully at a good clip and with some kind of insight that keeps the viewer at least generally engaged. Running two shows with a similar thing would make that topic acquisition possibly twice as hard, particularly again without any real indication as to which topics are resonating best with the viewers. Because, well, especially with the Six and I, we spend most of our time when we hang out talking about games. So it's not like that's really a problem. It's which topic is a viewer actually going to care about. Our best performing video so far is that birds aren't real, kind of a reveal of this satirical conspiracy theory thing. And meanwhile, we've had a couple that are similar to each other that had very different types. Our Diablo Immortal video got almost no views, and meanwhile our Diablo 4 video got more. And why? I don't know. Is one better than the other? Entirely possibly. Are they both terrible and one just got lucky? Also entirely possible. But so there's a little bit of experimentation here with subject matter, subject type, and that's something you're going to see more. We have been promising now an interview with a Texas law enforcement officer, something entirely different. And we want to get that one. It's actually really interesting because he has a lot of really fun stories to tell about his experience, and also some insight into being a cop from somebody that is also a gamer. You know, a one of us kind of moment with that. And so that is still coming at some point in time. I really don't want to wrap up the show prior to at least having gotten that key episode down. But yeah, so that's kind of the main struggle is the subjects. And the second most is time. And so that's another reason that having two consecutive shows going on, or two concurrent, sorry, isn't really plausible. Getting Six and I together actually at the same time and consistency, and then remembering and editing and so forth for all this is not, doesn't always work out the way we would like it to. I'm gonna snatch up some of this loot here and hopefully I don't get murdered. And so yeah, it's running that extra. Now of course I could do more solo, which is a lot easier as far as scheduling goes. But it is something I'd like to, kind of learn is, are these solo a little bit more rambling talk still enjoyable compared to the, I would say, slightly more structured version that come when I talk with Six, because we kind of go over the talking points ahead of time, particularly with two of us, so it doesn't end up becoming quite so rambly as this one did. And probably one of the last ones I worked on solo had a similar results. But I don't know, definitely things in the works. It is not going to stay exactly the way it is now. There will be changes. There will be movement to the show. Again, it could change entirely. It might not be Tarkov Talks at all. hopefully it stays that way, and possibly there becomes two. Maybe the second one kicks off, this one still does good, and we don't mind running both at the same time. But I know I've mentioned it plenty of times, too many times during this video. But while the likes and subscribes, of course, are great, the subscription for the recurring viewer base is obviously awesome. Most importantly, feedback. In this particular one, does listening to me talk, does listening to this ramble have any entertainment value to it whatsoever? And obviously, this particular talk is a little bit atypical since it's kind of a meta talk about the show itself. But for a normal one, go check out one of the other ones, drop a comment, be like, hey, this subject is terrible, the way you covered it's terrible, or this is really interesting, I'd like to hear more about this, or, whatever it is that you feel. Obviously, if I had insight into that, I probably wouldn't be making this video, and this would be a massive YouTube channel. So thanks if you have made it this far and listening to this rambling. I really appreciate the 10-15 minutes of your time here, and as always, have a great day.